I'm going to talk, basically Tim's stolen half my presentation, but I'm going to talk a little bit deeper on a few of the points that we as Jade see when we're going through the process of building a chatbot. So the deeper kind of steps that you go through and you're integrated with it. There's also a bit at the beginning about why Jade is interested in this, why we consider it something we should pay some attention to, and basically why we're working with Ambit around it. Quick definition, assuming the little clicker works. Oh. There we go. Dictionary definition of conversation, and Tim basically covered it, but feelings, ideas are expressed, questions are asked and answered, news and information is exchanged. Okay, those are the key points. And talking about a form and getting a change of address, there's an exchange that's happening there. So conversations are something things are passing backwards and forwards. Yeah, we have conversations all the time. Let's see if this works now. Woohoo! UX designer. You know, my whole world is how people act and react with technology. Conversation is the second interface that we learn. It is arguably the most important one. It's the one that we use the most, whether we're using it in text, whether we're writing to other people, letters, emails. I used to have a pen pal. It was a big part of my conversations growing up. The other part of this is interfaces, and all of you know what an interface is. So computer science, computer programming land, it's quite a specific meaning, but in a general sense, where independent and often unrelated systems meet, act on, or communicate with each other. Independent and often unrelated people meet, act on, or communicate with each other. Okay? It's an interface, a conversation passes through an interface. The interface is the conversation. The two are very common, they have a lot of overlap. I think is probably a better way of saying that. But the key point is it's where things happen. If you think about it from a chemistry sense, the interface between water and air is where things happen, the meniscus. Even within, when you mix stuff, there is an interface of whatever you mix into the liquid. Interfaces are where things happen. That's not to say that something doesn't happen within a system. You all build big complicated systems, things happen inside those, but I'll guarantee you that there is an interface mixed in there somewhere. Technology is basically all about interfaces, and there's a philosophical thing that it's all interfaces, magnification and abstraction. Everything we've ever built, humanity, it is one of those three, falls into one of those three. Talk to me later, it's a bit of a personal thing there on that one. And Tim touched on this as well, it's point number 2 stolen. The computer interfaces used to place a big burden on us. If you go back all the way to my highly technical diagram in the olden days, and everything about your interactions with computers and machines, the burden was on us. We had to learn how to speak the language that a computer could understand. Right on early days, there wasn't really any language, there was no concept of a language, there was no real conversation there. We did all the work so the computer could do this little thing, usually this repetitious task, that calculation. Over time, that's shifted. So the complexity of computers has grown to the point now where you cannot design or build a computer without. Whereas if you go back to, say, the 50s, you could. People designed computers on paper, but there is no way you're designing my phone, modern micro, anything like that, without benefit of a computer now. So the complexity has shifted to the point where we can actually have conversations. And going through that sequence, you can see, think about the languages you use, the interactions you have in those ways, we're getting more and more human. And conversational interfaces are a continuation in that direction. They're not the only one, but they are a big one. Tim mentioned channels. These are the kind of channels that we see commonly, the ways that people interact and talk. Key point here is that you do not talk the same way on a web chat and voice and Facebook Messenger on SMS and email. You have different ways of communicating. Computer doesn't necessarily understand that, but you can build it to understand that. The actual process of doing this for working with Ambit or some of the other Lewis and Watson and so on, roughly similar, except to be blunt, it's a lot easier. You have a conversation. Hi, how's it going? I want a coffee. Here's your coffee. Here's my money. Okay, very blunt conversation. In reality, it's a lot more like that. Humans are really good at getting distracted and moving around and saying things differently and realizing they said the wrong thing and want to talk about it and telling jokes, all sorts of things. But that's one part of what you have to do with a chatbot. There's I always say neuro-linguistic programming because I learnt that long before I learnt natural language processing. That's the secret sauce at the moment. Talk about the complexity of computers. We've got to the point where computers are complex and capable enough to do that, to process natural language. And wrapping around that are the interfaces, web chat, voice, all of the other ways that you can get into that flow of a conversation, including getting data out of other systems, out of Jade systems, off the web, from wherever. And there are I've picked three elements out of kind of the core side of conversational design: utterances, entities, and intents. An utterance is any sentence, basically. You can have explicit ones, you can have implicit ones, you can have decisions, you can have commands. There's a lot of different types, and you can explore all that. Entities are things you're talking about: coffee, money, numbers. Entities can often relate to context, making it really hard. If I say 21, no real context. If the preceding question is, how old are you? You know what that means. Okay? How much is it? How many do you want? The entity has changed. It's got a different context. And intent is what you're trying to get, what you're trying to say. So all of these three things mixed together actually have discussions. All this stuff comes in, feeds into the NLP. If it's trained well, you've got your tree of the conversation that it's moving through. You've got a chatbot. If you want it to know more stuff, learn about the questions that it needs to answer. Okay, first time it sees a question it can't answer, it'll say, sorry, don't know that. You need a nice graceful fail from an experience point of view. But then you add more topics and more things it can talk about to get it to understand. How old are you? I'm 24. My age is 24. I was born 24 years ago. All of those things have the same intent. So you need to train it. You need to teach it these ways. And this is part of learning and growing a chatbot. Not just growing, it's a child. So I do want to quickly just touch on assistants. Chatbots are one class of things, assistants are another. So Google, Assistant, Siri, etc. They're, at the moment, although this is looking to change, they are very limited. They just hand you off essentially to a chatbot. So something that's specialised and knows something about a specific task. So it's a one-off type thing. Chatbots are much more specialised. They're dealing with IT help desk questions. Can't answer questions about recipes unless you start teaching it. So there's a separation between them. Google especially is actually working to join those two. They're trying to have one assistant to rule them all, but we'll see how far that goes. Knowing them, probably a long way. So chatbots themselves, ignoring assistants, are really good at frequent structured tasks, things that you can see, things that you can repeat through. They're not so good, well, sorry, we'll come to not so good. They're good at supporting other channels. They don't stand alone easily, although I agree with Tim, they will. And again, Google agrees with me that they will. That's where they're going. But they're really, really good at the moment, for being abused, for being cool. you'll see a lot of what are crap bots, really. They don't do anything useful. They're the wrong tool for the job. And that's happening because it's new and whizzy. Same thing happened with mobile websites, same thing happens with phone apps. We'll pass through that phase, that'll all go away. They're bad, complicated and uncommon problems. So the things you don't see very often and have no experience on, hard to kind of encapsulate inside a conversation without all this other context wrapped around it, the kind of things we're great at. And they're really bad at unexpected situations, part of the same thing. They're really bad at dealing with emotional humans as well. I see that all the time with the testing we do. It's more of an indictment on us than the chatbot. We get annoyed really quickly, but it's really interesting that you will not get annoyed with a web form. You'll get frustrated, but you'll kind of push your way through it. Your expectation on a chatbot is very, very different. People give up almost straight away. So there's a level of polish that you need to kind of have in there, a level of robustness. Saying that, when people like it, then they really like it. Yes. Dr. Waterbot, it's one of the large ones. There's another one called UP, which... That's a... yes. What Dr. Woebot and UP do is they actually ask you questions about how you're feeling, and they do not tell you anything specific. So they're faking an interaction. Yep. So that's a really good example where people view the chatbot as something different to a web form. You could do exactly the same thing with a life logger app. Anything where you're just putting in, I use a little thing that every afternoon it tells me, how was your day gone? And I hit a smiley face thing. I'm up to 188 days. I'm kind of addicted to that number rather than anything else to do with it now. But people don't use those things very much, which is why you get streak numbers and things in them. But they respond differently to things like Dr. Woebot. But Dr. Woebot's not dealing with the person. Does that make sense? Oh, come and talk to me. Yeah. And I do want to reinforce, because this is really important, it is a digital employee. Think of your chatbot as an employee. They need onboarding, they need training, they need support. Their first day value is pretty crap. Okay, they don't do much useful for the business on day one. Okay, but what they do tell you is where they need to go, what they need to have. So you get a whole influx of information that you can grow from. So they might answer a few of the questions that you've set them up to, but you'll get a whole raft of other stuff. But that's what happens day one. You get a grad and you get a new employee that don't know where the toilets are, they're wasting people's time asking that kind of question. All this sort of stuff is what an employee does. They need basically professional development. So that's how a chatbot works. As though a chatbot can hold 100 conversations at once. So once you start developing that, then one seat doing whatever it's doing can develop a lot of seats. That's the scale. So I just want to finish with this. As a business, make sure you have the right chatbot for the job. That's the key point. And yep. And I'm going to hand over to Tim now so he can talk about the ins and outs of actually integrating a chatbot into Jade.
G'day and welcome everyone. So some of you may know me, some of you may not. I'm Tim and I am the newest employee in the Jade plant. Just started on just under a year ago. And what I'm going to be talking to you today about is how to get these chatbots actually connected up to Jade. So we've heard quite a lot about chatbot in general. I'm going to be covering, we've got a Jade database, we want to hook up a chatbot to it, how might we go about that and what do we have to think about? So within that we've got 3 questions I'm going to try and answer. First of all, why bother? Why would you want to put a chatbot in your Jade system? Second of all, how does that process actually go? How does it work? And third, and this is probably the most exciting part, is we're going to have a live demo. We've got Jade, the chatbot, and we're going to abuse her and try and see if she can book us a holiday while we do all sorts of silly things to her. Oh, I think that does sound a bit unpleasant. Alright. So, let's start with a bit of background. Tim and Shane both looked at chatbots from the side of the chatbot. I'm going to be looking at chatbots from the side of Jade. We're going to assume that we have a Jade database. Hopefully that's a safe assumption, being that it's the Jade users group. So if you don't have a Jade database, you should get one. They're really good. What does the Jade database do and have? So it has a whole bunch of data in it. This data is stored in objects. Of course, it's an object-oriented database. And the goal of the Jade database itself is to store this data as efficiently and as efficiently on disk as possible, and it's got an ACID requirement and things like this. It's not designed to be human readable. If you go and take one of the Jade database's files and open up a notepad, it's probably not going to be very interesting for you. You get a whole lot of these beautiful little null characters. Not particularly readable. Which, that can be a bit of a problem, because having a whole lot of data that no one could see, that would not be a very good use of anyone's time and resources. And we have a human. We've been talking about Connect and being user-centric. We always want to think about things from the point of view of the user. What is our user like? What do they want to do with our data? And how do they want to do the things they want to do with the data? So, got a lot of data in a Jade database. Each individual user won't use all of it at once. Probably only a very, very tiny subsection of it, and they need to be able to pick out just the data they want. We also have a wide variety of users. Some of your users might be the software engineers or database architects that are working with it. Some of them might be very experienced users. Probably not all of them. You're going to have at least some users who are non-expert, especially if your database is serving the general public. You're going to have some users who really, it might be their second time using a computer. It could be that maybe they're experienced with a computer, but they really don't know much about what they're trying to do. We want to make as few assumptions as we possibly can about our user, because the less assumptions we make about our user, the more users that we can serve. So, currently in Jade, we do quite a bit of this. We provide interfaces to the Jade database, and we have usability principles, and we try and make them as usable as possible. We have a few ways of going about it. We have a few current approaches. You'll notice that this is current approach is, not current approach. There's not just one way to access the data in the Jade database, and that's important. I've just got a couple of them here. Probably the most common is the Jade forms created in Jade Painter. You can make a nice little form. We've been talking about forms quite a bit. You fill in little text boxes and you click on buttons and you can access the data and make transactions based on the form. If you make a good Jade form, it's going to be pretty usable. A lot of your users are really going to like that. It's not going to be the right tool for every user though. Some users, for instance, might prefer a website. They want to go to it on their phone, for instance, or maybe accessing it directly through a Google search and they've found you and you're trying to sell them something. We've also got some interfaces for completely different kind of users. For instance, using RPS, we can make a relational view. It's probably not going to be for a human user, but for instance, a reporting tool might use that. We have a lot of tools in the Jade toolbox of how to interface with the Jade data. So, I've talked a bunch about Jade. We haven't mentioned chatbots yet. What is chatbots going to do? Is it going to throw away all of these forms and websites and RPS? No, it's another tool for the toolbox. That's what we're trying to get across, that you can interface to Jade data in many ways, and chatbots, they are one more way of interfacing. So, to reiterate, Jade chatbots, they are an addition, not a replacement. I don't want you guys, please don't throw out your Jade forms, don't throw out your website and just put a chatbot instead. It's something that you want to add. A really good way of adding a chatbot You take your website, and you put a chatbot in the corner, and that way the users can have a choice of how they want to interact with you. It's going to suit some users better. You know, if you've gone to the website, you might have a problem that's quite difficult to get through just by clicking on things on the website. Maybe you can't find it. If you can click on the chatbot, just ask me a question, get a simple answer, that can be really brilliant. I myself have, you know, I was ordering Domino's pizzas the other day, and I wanted to know, you know, something about what's in the pizzas. You know, which of your ingredients are vegan? Okay, enter in the chatbot, and they're like, oh, here's a list of everything that's vegan. It was really good for me. Some people, they really wouldn't want to use the chatbot for what they're trying to do. If it has to ask you maybe 10, 15 questions, you probably just want to be typing it into a form. So it's our tool. It's not the only tool, but it's good to have as many tools as possible so that we can serve all of the different users and all of the different use cases. Now, hopefully that's inspired you or given you an idea of why you might want to flick a chatbot as an extra interface into your Jade database. I'm going to talk just a little bit, just briefly, about implementation. How are we actually going to do this? So, we've pretty well covered, thanks to Shane and Tim, about how the chatbot talks to you, gets the information, gets the intent of what you're trying to say from your words, and it's come up with what you're trying to do. We call that an intent. What are you trying to do? And using things like natural language processing and conversational flow and the platform, we've extracted out the intent from your chatting away with the chatbot. What do we do with that intent? What do we do next? Alright, my favourite pun about rest, of course, time for rest. Good, I'm getting a little bit tired. So, from the Jade side, we want to be able to take these intents and serve them. We do this through what's called RESTful Web Services. It stands for Representational State Transfer. The idea being that it's completely stateless. You don't have to establish the server-client connection over the web and maintain that connection, have the server remember all of the information about the clients. You package all of the state information that you need represented in the URI, or URL request. You pass it into Jade, and it's good because it's lightweight, and you can send in all the information you need to get what you need out of the database. So we've got this REST request that we want to serve. How do we do that from Jade? Fortunately, most of the heavy lifting is pretty much done for us by the Jade REST service class that is provided in Jade, part of the work schema. All you really have to do to use it is describe all of the behaviours that you want to serve. So for any GET request, that's something like I want to get all of the holidays with these particular parameters. You subclass the Jade REST service, you put a method on it, prefix it with GET, describe the parameters that have come in, describe the behaviour, and then you can return an object and it will return it in either JSON, JavaScript object identification, or XML, extensible markup language format, which then can go back to the chatbot and they can do whatever they need to do with it. And you can, of course, by prefixing something with a post request, accept database transaction requests, and from the Jade REST service class, of course, you're in Jade land at that point, you can make transactions. By implementing this REST service, you can have your Jade chatbot interact nice and seamlessly with your database, and because REST is lightweight, it's very scalable, it's good at having a lot of clients, making it nice and suitable for purposes. Right, now, I want to keep things a bit short because one, we've got an exciting demo coming up, and two, after we're done here we've got lunch. It sounds like we're getting pretty close to lunchtime. So now I'm going to invite Shane back for a bit of demo, and we might see if we can't book a holiday with Jada chatbot, or at least have fun tormenting Jada.
So this is Jada. Jada is tied to Erewhon. Bonus points. Who knows the source of Erewhon? wrote it. Where did he live? Yeah, close, yeah. So behind this is a Jade system with a bunch of travel data and trips. So fake website and we chatbot down the corner. This is built on Synapse, Ambit. So hopefully, one thing we were concerned with, is that fairly readable? Shall I read it out as we go?
Need to read it.
Read it out as we go? Okay. So Jade is asking me, I'm here to help you book awesome holidays, how can I help you? One thing we've found with chatbots is that people will probe a chatbot to see if it is actually robust, basically, if they're going to trust it, before they will even start interacting with why they're here. So they'll often ask questions like, who do you work for? Tell me a joke. What's happening with the weather? So, who do you work for? Everyone is a subsidiary of Jade Software. What shall we talk about? That's looping back to the standard prompt. How long have you worked? Okay. 21,000 minutes. So, lifetime counter, easy. So, this is not trivial. Okay, it is trivial. It's trivial to build and educate and train in. It's not trivial for people using a chatbot. This is part of the ways, and you find more and more ways that before people will get on with it. How can I help? Booking a holiday. Go to Europe. On the 15th of June 2019. So, just to confirm, preferred holiday is Saturday, June 15th. Location-wise, you're looking at Europe. Does this sound right? So, there's a whole lot of NLP in there. You can answer that in all sorts of different ways. If you try and ask for somewhere it doesn't know, Timbuktu, then it will start prompting you for locations. Yes, that sounds right. So, yep, yes, that's good. Yeah, I like that. All sorts of different ways. Do any of these pique your interest?
So for the people in the back, if you can't see this as well, Shane's been presented with a number of European holiday packages, which are showing images, prices,
yep,
etc., and the chatbot's asking if any of these are interesting.
So, user failure. I suppose I should have just. So, okay, here's a really good example actually where sometimes you don't want to type it all, so you can provide buttons. It's one of the features of the platform. It's just a quick way of entering text. Basically.
Shane just chose gold mining as a vacation.
Yep. Just confirming the gold mining holiday starting on Saturday the 15th. Yes. We'll put that under. So what email address? UX role at jadeworld.com.
So Shane's just given his email, which is one of the things that someone asked about during Tim's presentation, is this idea of keeping that connection, saving the conversations over time, and maybe personalizing future conversations.
So actually, to go back to that question, it's a good example here. For a travel chatbot, they probably don't care about their conversation. For a support request chatbot, which is close to my painful heart with Vodafone, 3 weeks running to get a new internet connection, I really care about that. And their current bot actually serves it up. What's it asking me?
What is your name?
What's my name? And address would have to be 5 Sybil Simpson Drive. And phone number. I hope it doesn't have a phone number filter. So it's just checking all my details. Yes, I'm all good with that. And we're booked. So that's all gone out into a Jade system. It's queried the Jade system for the travel based on Europe. Lots of metadata in there against that. Do you want to talk to an agent? You can actually set up an appointment. Well, okay. Yes, we'll talk to an agent. 4:30 p.m. on Thursday. So, out of that utterance, we haven't given it all the possible ways of explaining times and dates and things. The AI, the neural net, basically under the language processing, can look at what it's been taught about and pull out what it thinks it is. It's all probabilistic. Yep, do that. Great, and it's booked. And now it's cycle back to what should we talk about, because that's how we designed that overall flow of the conversation. Did you have, where's that other browser? Is it left it in there? Yeah.
So there's an integration behind the scenes with the calendar capability.
Yeah.
So if you didn't see what Shane was doing when he was asked about dates and talking to an agent, he gave specific instructions that he's available on Thursday. That was confirmed, and then...
So here's the email to that address, which has come from the Jade system. There'll be a calendar invite still in processing. I've got like 7 holidays booked at the moment. But so that's cycling through the whole thing. Present it. Wrong. I'm just really not used to a Windows machine these days. There? No. No one. Yeah. So, one channel. So, another thing that we can do very quickly, we'll do a short version of it. And hopefully this is loud enough. I'll get close so you can hear it through here. Yeah. We'll see. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, just Google Home. Can be presented through your phone as well. But, hey Google, talk to Jade from Erewhon.
Sorry, I'm not sure how to help, but my team is helping me learn.
There's a good fallback from Google around what to do. So, fingers crossed, try to. Hey Google, talk to Jade from Erewhon.
Sorry, I don't know how to help with that yet,
Of course.
but I'm always learning.
Actually, Google can go bye-bye there. Hey Google, talk to Jade from Erewhon.
Alright, here's the test version of Jada from Erewhon. Hi, I'm Jada. I'm here to help you book awesome holidays to help you forget your everyday woes. Winking face. How can I help you?
I'd like to book a holiday. That's a really good example of how channels can differ.
So what location were you interested in? I'm looking for a country, region, or continent, please.
South America.
Can you please tell me your holiday day, month, and year?
15th of June 2020.
Awesome. So just to confirm what you've just told me, your preferred holiday date is Monday, June 15th, 2020. Location-wise, you are looking at South America. Does this sound right?
Yep, that's good.
Based off what you've told me, sorry, I couldn't get any holidays specific to South America, but here are some I have found that match what you told me. Do any of these pique your interest?
Mediterranean cruises. It's defaulted to one of the ones we had earlier.
Just to confirm, which holiday would you like to choose? Mediterranean cruises, Italian homestays, or Egyptian tomb tours?
So it's actually produced the same. Now it's picked my voice up.
Just to confirm, which holiday would you...
It's given me the same buttons, different channel, but same button.
Awesome, we're almost there. So I'm just confirming your Mediterranean cruises holiday starting Monday, June 15th, 2020?
Yes.
Bear with me, I'm just checking to see if you've got an account with us. If not, I can quickly create one for your booking. How rude of me, I never got your name. Sorry, what is your name?
Shane. 5 Sir Gill Simpson Drive. 5 Sir Gill Simpson Drive.
Just about there. Last thing is your phone number, please.
123456. So this is
Checking. Your name is Shane. Your address is 5 Sir Gill Simpson Drive. Your email is uxroll@jadeworld.com, and your phone number is 123456.
yes. Yes.
So I'm putting your booking into the system. Isn't this exciting?
Thanks, Jada. Goodbye. So you can see the difference in
I've confirmed what holiday you would like, and we've put it
yes, confirmation, etc. So you can see the difference between the channel, but conversation is the same. It's the underlying, same underlying engine driving. You can specialise it straight out, and yes, you should. Do you want to?
And now we've I think we're almost got lunch, so I'm just going to make this really brief. I'm aware that this is probably not very readable up on the projector. I don't know if anyone was looking, but as Shane was booking that Mediterranean cruise, in real time it popped up in my database. So what I have here, it's just a really basic, simple Jade form. The Jade database that we're using is hosted up in the cloud, and this is just a thin client application that's connecting to the database that shows, it's got a big list of all our clients up there, essentially. And we've got Shane, that's good. And we've got a whole bunch of bookings that have been made. The first two we booked just to make sure that the thing worked before we did this live demo, because that's always a good idea. The last two, gold mining and Mediterranean cruises, which were the two that Shane booked in the two demos. I think it lost the entire connection. Chug. We might have lost network for a second or something. Yeah, I think we have. But hopefully you were able to see that anyway, that as Shane booked the Mediterranean cruise, it popped up in the database. So as we're talking to this chatbot, it is making transactions in our J database and assigning these holiday objects to our customer object. Well done. Sorry, Shane, you're not really an object. Alrighty. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say with that this chatbot is thankfully indeed connected to our database on the cloud and is able to make transactions and pull those holidays out of the database. All of those holidays we were seeing are holidays that are coded into our one demonstration system that's hosted on the cloud.
A couple minutes for questions for Tim, and Shane, and then we'll start lunch in just a few minutes. And there is a 30-minute Q&A late this afternoon as well. We're always happy to talk to you more about this if we don't get to one of your questions today. And there is a chatbot flyer or information sheet in your packet for the day. So if you want to touch base with us after the conference, you're welcome to do that as well. Questions? Yeah.
This is a REST API using XML. What stops any chatbot or any conversation tool that supports that from integrating? Why would it need to be a Jade chatbot?
Okay, so that's a good question. What I mean by Jade chatbot is essentially a chatbot that uses a Jade update as its backend. You don't actually really need to do anything too specific with the chatbot itself. It's merely, by Jade chatbot, I'm merely that a chatbot is going to have some sort of backend that can indeed be Jade database.
To take that a little bit further, Bob, you could pick up Watson and go for it, but at that point, trust me, the heavy lifting that Synapse does for us is huge. It's large, and you would have to load that all onto the Jade side of the transaction at that point. So yes, you could use anything. Yes, it's just a REST API, but yeah, there are a lot of things I wouldn't touch.
I suppose we never really touched on the power, what's really happening with as far as the chatbot and the heavy lifting part of it. That wasn't portrayed.
It's one of the issues when you make something easy, everyone assumes it wasn't a problem. It's like flying, right? So in that brief video explainer that I had up there, you would have seen what looked like a network diagram with different things that we call nodes. Each one of those nodes represents somewhere between 500 and 1,000 lines of if you wrote the software directly in code. But the difference is it's tested, so it works, and that's a fundamentally different thing. Also, so for a start, it's much more sophisticated than WordPress, but it's like the WordPress of building a web page. You can build a really sophisticated WordPress page. It looks beautiful, and it's very quick to do. The thing that Shane talked about, when you do it like a single use case or something like that, it's manageable in a code scenario. But by the time you're talking about a sophisticated conversational, like even one's similar to the one that was just had there, you're talking about tens, hundreds of thousands of lines of code to achieve that. And automating all of the natural language assessment into where it's a box where you can pick 2 or 3 variables and it works for you is, it's we talk about the time to value, so it turns months into weeks, or months even into days in terms of development.
So could also answer what part of this handles the security side. So what's to prevent you asking the chatbot to delete all entries in the customer table?
No security.
No security, great.
No, it's just, what is it, RM star? Yeah, so a key thing with the platform, so there's 2 sides of this. I can't talk to the Jade side, I assume that's sorted, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So on the Ambit side, there's 2 things that are really hard to deal with if you don't bake them in from day one. One is languages and the other is security. And so we launched this solely with the purpose of being a large company and enterprise focused. One of our first customers was KPMG, so they put us through their standard global hoops. So that was our first experience, right? So that's baked in from day one. Every aspect is permissioned, and every control, every time you call out to an external database, we're checking security on our side, and an external database is going to be doing the same. So that is baked in from day one.
Just to add,
where in order to make it demo more nicely, we just have no security whatsoever. You can just say Shane. It's like, okay, I guess you're Shane.
So to take that on the opposite side, we get people. We've seen, because you see the logs of every conversation that's had, people will come in and try and stick SQL statements in the table. We get RM staff.
It's quite cute. Yeah, because there's no SQL in the whole stack.
Yeah. So, but obviously the chatbot, we handle that and we say, no, and push it away. But that's part of that cycle that people go through. Yeah.
The interesting thing as well, because it's handled in natural language, there is no. It's not like in the old days of PHP where you'd have form the queries on the client side, push them through, and then that'd be automatically run on the server side. It's a bit scary. We had lots of holes. We're interpreting it like a person, and if you've got a person on your customer services desk who understands SQL and then executes it, good on you. But that's not what our natural language engine does. Yeah.
So what's the revenue model here for Ambit? And if I was building an application and wanted to use your services, how does it all work?
Yeah, so 2 sides of that. So there's a platform. So think of it like a Salesforce. So there's an underlying platform cost, and that's for us, and we manage all of the backhaul. But in terms of commercials for services and maintenance and all of the ongoing service and support, that would be with Jade, and that's generally based. If the costs kind of work like an employee of an equivalent level. So if you've got a really simple one that can handle basic FAQs like a level 1 customer services and support, it's a similar cost to that kind of a person. If you've got a much more sophisticated head of your service desk and you build out all those other inquiries and questions and resolutions that can be managed, it's going to be more like the cost of that person, but it's infinitely scalable. Yeah, it happened to work out to be those kind of costs, and then that's the way we explain it, because we like to think of these things as digital employees.
Maybe one more question, if anyone has one, and then we'll break for lunch. Sure.
Yeah, do you see a point where your platform can teach itself, or maybe talk to another digital employee to learn?
So two questions there, quite different and both really interesting, right? So the first point is we're doing that at the moment. We're building that at the moment. So later this year, we'll have that full supervised virtual circle where we use data to inform, we learn from humans, and then we look to automate the response. Whether you want to push that button to do it automatically without human supervision, we may or may not give you that power. The second part of your question is absolutely fascinating. It's almost becomes, it's like the future of this technology. The question for those that didn't hear is how about getting digital employees talking to each other? Well, I see it absolutely going that way, and kind of working like this. You'll have something that works for you, just you, and it interfaces with everything else. And it can talk to any other, because conversation is pretty broad, right? It's lots of built-in redundancy. You can say things in all different kinds of ways. So if you have multiple conversational agents that can talk to each other, ideally on the same platform, because we all speak the same language then, that'll be really powerful. I've seen some really funny videos. If you look up, I think it's called Alexa versus Siri. What you quickly learn is that Alexa and Siri, as Shane pointed out, they're transactional. They do a rubbish job of conversation. But actually, the booking one, I wouldn't be surprised if next year you're watching one personal agent book through voice with another personal agent. It's close. Yeah.